In a dense forest, hidden from the sun and filled with mysterious whispers, there was an abandoned village. Once upon a time, it was bustling with life, with children running through the streets, adults working in the fields, and evenings spent around campfires, sharing stories. However, over the years, the village fell into disrepair, and the forest consumed it like a sponge absorbing water. Fallen trees became tombstones for villages that were forgotten. It was in this forest that the legendary Hadzik was rumored to live, a creature whose appearance was difficult to describe. Some claimed that it resembled a human, but with elongated limbs and a distorted face, while others claimed that it was a solid air made of whispers and darkness. It appeared only at night and consumed fear, feeding on the subjective experiences of its victims. This story begins with a young man named Maxim. As a child, he had heard stories about Hadzik, and he had heard terrifying details. Hands that could stretch for several meters, eyes that glowed in the dark, and whispers that came from the depths of the forest. Despite these warnings and fears, Maxim decided to venture into the forest in search of adrenaline and excitement. Day 1. Entering the forest. Maxim was wearing a thick jacket and comfortable boots. He set out at dawn, when the first rays of the sun began to shine through the treetops. He thought that his adventure would only last a day, and he would return home with exciting stories. However, as he ventured deeper into the forest, the light grew dimmer and the atmosphere became more tense. By evening, the forest was filled with strange sounds, the crackling of branches, the rustling of leaves, and a distant sound that Maxim couldn't identify. He lit a fire and decided to rest. As he sat by the fire, he remembered all the scary stories he had heard as a child, and a sense of fear suddenly enveloped him like a nighttime fog. Night 1. The shadow in the forest. As night fell, the cold seeped into every cell of his body. Maxim began to feel that he was not alone. He hears a hoarse and eerie whisper that seems to come from somewhere in the darkness. Unable to resist his fear, he stands up and begins to look around. Suddenly, something long and dark emerges from behind the trees, with curved limbs and a distorted head. Maxim freezes in terror and cannot look away. The creature remains motionless, but its eyes glow in the darkness, reflecting the moonlight. At this moment, Maxim's memory is filled with stories about Hadzik. He exists only in fear. His grandmother's words echo in his mind. Panicked, Maxim flees into the forest, leaving the campfire behind. He hears someone chasing him, but decides not to look back. Day 2. The invisible enemy. The next morning, exhausted and terrified, Maxim wakes up on the cold ground. There are no footprints around him, except for his own. He decides that he must have just seen the trees and their shadows, but the thought of Hadzik never leaves his mind. He realizes that he cannot stay here. He needs to find a way out of the forest. However, the further he goes, the more he gets lost in the winding paths. The forest seems alive, as if it is changing its shape to keep him inside. Halfway through, Maxim finds an old, crumbling building that looks like a shack. He decides to take shelter there, feeling the night growing colder. Inside the shack, he smells mold and decay. He finds an old wooden chair and sits down. However, he notices strange writings on the walls. "He's come for me, don't look into his eyes," he eats fear. Night in the shack. As the night deepens, fear returns to Maxim's soul. Terrible sounds come from every corner of the forest, and the same whisper appears again. He decides that he can no longer stay in this place. As he is about to stand up, he notices movement in the corner of the hut. A ghostly figure appears in the darkness, and as it is illuminated by the dim light of the moon, he realizes that it is the creature again. Its eyes glow, and its long arms hang almost to the floor. Maxim freezes in place. He knows that he should run, but his legs feel as if they are stuck to the floor. In that moment, he remembers his fear. He realizes that he is his own enemy. Hadzik feeds on his fear, and the only way to escape is to resist. Day 3. Distorting reality. Maxim struggles to gather his memories of real life. He begins to reflect on how his family, friends, and adventures have left him with only fragments of warmth that can withstand the coldness of the forest. His fear begins to recede. He realizes that he must be bolder, or else he will lose everything. With determination, he steps out of the cabin and heads towards the light. As he does, he feels the forest changing, the sounds becoming quieter, and Hajik's breath becoming invisible. But this is only a temporary illusion. Accepting this challenge, Maxim straightens his shoulders. He begins to shout, "I am not afraid of you! Get out!" The air around him shudders. Suddenly, he notices that the shadow that is pursuing him begins to lose its shape. Its arms are shortened, its eyes stop glowing, and its body becomes distorted. A night with Hajik. As night falls, the forest is once again enveloped in darkness. Maxim ventures deeper into the forest, reminding himself that fear has no power over him. The creature appears, and its faces become clearer. "Have you come to take my life?" asks Hajik, his voice echoing. "No, I have come to take back mine," thanks Maxim, desperately trying to leave. The struggle with the invisible enemy begins. Every step Maxim takes tests his physical and mental strength. Hajik grows in anger. But every time he tries to get closer, Maxim remembers his loved ones, the reason he went down into this forest to return victorious. The end of the duel. The light begins to break through the trees. Maxim feels the creature's strength leaving him. He stops, takes a deep breath, and laughs, shouting joyfully to the forest. "You cannot defeat me! I am as solid as stone and as strong as metal." Hajik begins to disperse, and the emptiness and darkness consume him, while the forest seems to forgive him, allowing him to leave its boundaries. Maxim emerges into the light, pushing through the thorny bushes. Ahead, he sees his favorite path, the one that led him to the forest. His fear has finally left him, and he realizes that the most terrifying thing was his own mind. He no longer believes in the legends of Hajik, and he returns home, embracing his new memories with a strong hug, while the old fears remain only in the dark corners of the forest. Epilogue: The Forest Without Hajik. Time passed, and Maxim became a different person. He often walked through the forests, unafraid of their depths, knowing that fear itself is formed in our minds. Hajik became just a story that he would tell his children. And in the certainty of his heart, he understood that hundreds of such creatures would torment our ancestors until they conquered their fears.